Welcome back to the SAOR Method. Today's guests are Gordon and Rob from Active Edge Fitness, a company helping shape the future of fitness facilities and wellness spaces across Ireland. With backgrounds spanning gym ownership, marketing, business development, and commercial fitness solutions, they spent years working behind the scenes with gyms, hotels, sports organizations, and corporate wellness spaces to create environments that actually work for the people using them. But this conversation goes far beyond equipment. Talk about the evolution of the fitness industry, what separates successful facilities from average ones, the mistakes gym owners make when designing spaces, and how the fitness community is shifting towards a complete wellness experience. Please welcome Gordon and Rob from Active Edge Fitness. Rob, Gordon, Active Edge, thank you guys for joining me here today. We're going to have an in-depth conversation about all things equipment, where the industry is going. And I suppose what I would like to start with is actually you guys' background. So, Robert, where's your background? How did Active Edge come about? Where's the idea behind this?
So my background is in marketing, and I run another business called Identity Promotions, which is for branded merchandise. My expertise in that was sourcing and finding new unique products for the market and selling them to multinationals, blue chip clients in the pharma sector, finance, legal, all different types of sectors. I have had a big interest in fitness since around 2014, where I got diagnosis with epilepsy, and one of the big treatments, homeopathic treatments, is exercise to help you in dealing with your epilepsy. So that got me on the road of fitness. Myself and Gordon have been friends for probably 15 years. And in that time, Gordon has been in the industry a lot longer than I have. And in 2024, we came together and set up Active Edge. And I'll let Gordon come in here now.
Yeah, I guess, look, I've always been in the industry. I've never done anything else. So I would have studied sports and leisure management in college and then went straight into the gym industry and ran gyms for 10 or 15 years and then branched off into the sales of gym equipment. So I've never done anything else really, to be honest with you. So I'm a long time at it. I think 20 plus years or something like that in this industry. So a lot of changes in that time, certainly. But yeah, I've always been involved in the industry. That's essentially what it comes down to. So,
And given it's such a competitive space right now, especially in Ireland, it seems as if equipment companies seem to be just popping up left, right, and center. Why now? Or, what prompted this to say, we want to come in here and do this different?
well, I guess, look, I've obviously been around and I've worked in a couple of different companies, and I've seen how some companies do it well and how some companies don't do it so well. And I suppose what we try and do is something different than the others do. First of all, I suppose we're both directors, we're both owners, so we're both very, very passionate about what we do. Which I'd say is unique. There are some owners, but most of the owners that are involved in this side of the industry aren't actively involved in the industry. They're not actually out there selling, dealing with problems, issues, etc., etc. So I'd say we're pretty unique from that point of view. We try and have a consultative approach. So there's a lot of asking questions. So, the standard practice is someone sends me a list of equipment to do a quote on. I don't actually take that. I look at it and I have a glance at it, but I'll start asking lots of questions. So sometimes clients get frustrated because I might ask them 15 or 20 questions. But what I'm trying to do is find out what the right choice of equipment is for that particular client, rather than just going with the list that they have. And it's not disrespectful. I'm sure they know what they want, but it's just checking and making sure that they actually have the right type of equipment that they have, or flooring or whatever it be. So we'll try and find that brand or that particular product that works for them. So I think that the big thing is you've got two owners that are very passionate, and you're not dealing with a younger person that hasn't been around the block and doesn't know what they're at and isn't passionate about it. So I suppose that's what's kind of unique to us. Rather than the others that, have lots of staff members, which is great, brilliant. but they're not as actively or passionate about the whole thing that we are. So I suppose that's the uniqueness that we bring to the party.
And I think that was a mistake that I made when I first opened my studio. I've since sold out, but 8-9 years ago, I literally, like that, sent a list to an equipment providers in Ireland. He got back to me, here's your price. I said, cool, I'll pay. And it was delivered. And then once it arrived at the studio, I had to put together, first of all, which was an absolute nightmare. And I opened up, I'll never forget, it was almost New Year's. Yourself nearly killed me. And I think it arrived on like the 23rd of December, 22nd of December. And I was still there on New Year's Eve till about 11 o'clock. And I said, geez, I better go, So that was one issue. And the second issue was that in my head, I could visually see where things were going.
Yeah.
That was very different to reality. That was so different to what actually fit. And the flow, and I kept moving stuff, I would say, for the first year.
Yeah.
Because the flow just didn't work. It didn't work for the type of coaching that I was doing also, which was small group PT. So 1-to-5 model and a 1-to-1 model. And that was so frustrating. And I think that's where you guys come in and do it different, right?
Yeah.
You look at the space and see how it can work.
Yeah, and we know from experience, like we do up 3D drawings for people, but half the time I throw them in the bin when I get on site because it just doesn't work, when you get there. And I suppose through my experience in the industry, I just know what will and won't work. And, on that point, there's nothing wrong with changing your gym around. It's a dynamic, process that fine, it might look great and you might feel that the flow is right at the start, but actually in reality, it mightn't suit your particular style of coaching or whatever it be. So there's nothing wrong with that. It should be a dynamic situation that you do, change things around. But if you try and get it right at the start, that helps. You know what I mean? So that's all part of it. So I suppose I just lean into, I've seen pretty much every type of gym that there is at this stage. So I just know, what way you're supposed to put them, et cetera, and we try and give it the best advice we can. We try and go to installs as much as possible for that exact reason, is that it just feels different sometimes, that you just get a feeling for something. You go, right, that's just not going to work. It looked great in a drawing, but actually it's not going to work. So,
yeah. I get that. And Rob, take me through. So if I'm looking to open up my own studio now in the next couple of weeks, what's the process look like? Do I literally just send you a list and say, hey guys, I want this? Take me through what that process looks like.
What we're finding at the moment is as a new business with a lot of experience, sometimes we get invited to the party very late in the conversation where people think, oh, sure, I'll open in 3 weeks' time. I'll just organize all my gear now. It makes more sense. It makes more sense to be planning your gear and what type of equipment. What we've noticed with Sarah and some of your clients at the moment is one of the biggest challenges they have is getting premises. That seems to be a big challenge for small group PT studios. Seems to be that landlords aren't taking a risk on them as much as they used to because there's a maximum capacity use for space at the moment. But like we would prefer people to come to us a little bit earlier in their journey of setting up their studio. Like it's an idea for months, maybe a year before it actually comes to fruition. A lot of the time, from what we've seen, and what we also see with a lot of our networking and trying to find out about these new studios. So sometimes these new studios are opening in 2 weeks' time, and we're going, well, why didn't we know about that? Or why didn't we hear about that? Or because some of this goes online, because we're more of a consultative approach to what we're doing. Like we don't have, like our website has got our products on it. It's got some dynamic brochures and things like that you can flick through and pick all your stuff. But we're not a let's call it, we're not an e-commerce site where, every one of our prices is up online and you can buy a Concept 2 here for $199 or $1,099 and here you can buy it for $1,050. I'm just going to buy one for $1,050. That's not our model. It's never been our model. And it's not for the next couple of years. It's not going to be our model. We want to get the best equipment into the gyms that will suit the environment they go into, as opposed to someone that's shopping online. So that's a challenge for for us sometimes, because people, they'll go off and do their shopping online and we miss out. We miss out. Ultimately, we miss out because they might buy the wrong equipment. You know, there's any studios that are thinking of doing Hyrox or any of the Concept 2 products that are out there. There's very good copies of all those pieces at half the price of the original concept. So we can we can help people save money with a conversation very quickly. They're not going to reduce the quality of what the product is, but we can definitely save and make better decisions for the gym owners or the potential people who are opening gyms at the moment. We can help them down a road where, you know, there's an online shopping cart there, or you can go to consultants where we'll hold your hand and go through that process, which is, I think, is a big difference.
I agree. That is the difference between setting up right from day one. Look, it's why people come to us as well, right? It's what we do. We guide them through the process on starting their business. And that's exactly why we partner with you guys as well, is because you're not just I'll add it to my cart and it'll arrive at my, at the door and away I go. There needs to be more thought, more of an in-depth process to that, which is why I love your guys' approach, and I really, really respect what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's the most important part. And Gordon, you're the equipment guy. You've been in it for 20 plus years, I think you said. Take me through some of the brands that you chose and why you chose those.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I've learned over the years is that a lot of customers aren't brand focused. So it's not a brand focused industry. So although a lot of suppliers, I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, like Life Fitness, et cetera, the customer base, the actual person that's using the equipment isn't brand focused. That's what it comes down to. So I suppose the brands that we've chosen for the right reasons, i.e. one of the biggest issues in the industry is lead time. So, if someone wants to buy, Rob has just said exactly what happens in reality is that we get 3 weeks notice and we have to install the equipment in 3 weeks. So that's a really important part of our service. In other companies that I've worked for, there's been longer lead times, and that causes issues basically because no matter, you've just said about people getting premises and it taking a while, suddenly they have it, they want to go with it, they want to get on with it, they've been waiting a long time, so they want the stuff quick. So the brands that we've chosen are all either in stock in Ireland or they're in Spain where we can get them within 3 weeks. So we've stopped dealing with the UK because of the Brexit issue. It just causes all sorts of issues in customs and things like that. So predominantly we've now focused on brands that we can get quickly. So the two major brands that we would sell would be Swiss Barbell, which is mainly for racks, free weights, etc., and a bit of flooring as well. And then BH Fitness, which is a Spanish brand, very, very good quality, good value for money, hits the right mark, with regard to functionality, etc., and it's very good. And then the only third one that we have is a separate flooring company that we use, which is called Stocks and Tracks, which again is based in Holland, so we can get it in quickly. There's no issue with it. So again, 2 weeks is the max. So we focused on, quality, value for money, speed of service, essentially. And I guess because I've worked in the industry so long, I've worked with a lot of the brands at this stage. I know which ones are good and which ones are back from a logistical point of view. They have better setups in the background. So, for example, with BH, I send a request for something, I get an answer within 24 hours minimum. Sometimes it's within 3. So they're very, very quick to deal with things. And I guess I've used my industry experience that I've kind of made the mistakes while I've worked for other people. Now I'm doing it myself. I want to do it right. So, they're the kind of the 3 major brands that we would work with. So.
What are the other things that, like, from my background of sourcing, like I've been sourcing products in the Far East for 20 odd years. We have seen a movement for a lot of people going direct to, say, the likes of China and ordering stock and things like that. There's obviously pluses and minuses to everything in life. Customs, delivery, installation, CE marks for insurance that some people, they just, it's not really thought of a lot. But, you know, you can buy a rack in China for whatever price. It could be maybe 25, 20, 30% cheaper than you can get locally. Does it have the proper CE approval on it? Does it have the proper certification on it? No one ever knows that until someone has an accident in the gym. And I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to scare people, but until you have an accident in the gym and then the insurance company comes in and goes, you see that piece of equipment over there? Show me the paperwork for that. I don't have it because I got it from China. That, you know, that has, I've spoken to people in the industry that have had those type of stories happen, that their suppliers were bringing in stuff for speed and maybe for better pricing. And it's only when something happens, it's, you know, insurance is only needed when something goes wrong. So, but so we pick brands that we know we can stand by, that have the proper certification, that we know the backstory of correctly. We also have looked at brands ourselves and thought of bringing in, we have another brand called Skelcore, but again, that's a 16 to 20 week lead time minimum if someone wants to kit out their gym. Some of their equipment is really unique and it's really cool. But like, as you just said there, people are wanting to open their gym in 3 weeks. They're not going to wait 16 weeks. They're not going to wait 60, unless they have deep pockets and they know what unless they come to us 4 months before they get it, 4 months before they get their gym open. So, as Gordon said, we go for speed, quality, and price at the moment, because I think that's what the market is missing. Because most of the other main dealers are 12 to 16 weeks lead time for a lot of the equipment.
Yeah, I remember I ran into that exact issue when I was opening up as well. I literally got a unit and was told, yeah, you can have it in 4 weeks' time. You have I think it was a 2-month fit out, you know, grace period as such. And in my head, I was like, okay, well, that means I need to have my doors open, right, in 8 weeks, realistically, because I overspent on equipment, like most, and didn't leave enough in the kitty to cover the first couple of months, which is a common mistake also that a lot of people, I think, make when they're first opening up as well. They go all in on the equipment and then forget about all the other things, the marketing, the merch, the page, small things, right? They're very small things. I think that's where, again, you guys probably come into play a little bit more, because you're probably looking at the full picture, right? And you don't seem like the type of people that are just in the business to sell more for the sake of it. You genuinely care about the operator, about the business owner.
I say this to Gordon all the time. Like, we're not box shifters. Like, there's box shifter businesses and they're brilliant. You know, they do really well at what they do. They shift boxes. They put a box here, they bring it to there. Someone placed an order, it's delivered. They put it together. We ask the why. We ask the why and the how more. And just in relation to that, what you're just saying there, most people opening their first gym, you said you overspent on your own equipment. One of the things we encourage our clients to try and do is, like, there is finance models out there. So you're not throwing all your capital at a load of equipment at the beginning. Like, put it over 5 years at $1,000 a month, let's say $1,000 a month, as opposed to trying to come up with 50, 60, 70 grand up front to try and get your business moving. There's many operators out there that will loan on that, on those bases, knowing if you have obviously if you have a good business plan. So we offer that service as well, not ourselves, but through a third party, where we can put you in touch with your clients, or our clients in with the right people. Because Gordon has said this, there's numerous gyms come in and they just don't understand that little piece. There is ways of doing that to help set up and cover all the other existing costs at the beginning of running a business.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, and not a service I'd say that a lot of people make use of, but it does make sense from a cash flow perspective to go about that model. Yeah, and it's great that you're able to bring people through that process as well. Take me through one fit out that you've done so far that really stands to mind. I know you've done a couple for our members. You've done a substantial one for WellFit and Skerries up in Dublin. But is there any fit out that really stands to mind to say, like, I'm sure you're proud of all the work you do, but that's the stamp right there. That's the one. Is there any of those?
I'd say WellFit is a very good example of it, actually. And this is interesting, and Derek will be testament to this. When we initially spoke, he wanted to do something completely different. So his model was to just go and replace all his spin bikes and a few treadmills. So that was the original conversation. This is the perfect example of someone coming to me with a list. We ended up doing something completely different. We worked on site together, and the first thing that me and Rob looked at was his flooring. So his flooring was a green Astro that was a bit tatty looking. And we said, no, I wouldn't do this. I would do this. So we looked at replacing all his flooring and then changing his resistance equipment. And actually one of the things that we did for him that cost him no money, there was a tatty looking resistance piece that was sitting at the doorway just as you walked in. So during COVID, there was issues obviously with people spray gunning, spray onto the framework of machines, and you couldn't stop them. It was just the way it was, and it was rusted and it looked awful and was right in the doorway. And we told them to move the piece of equipment over to the far side of the wall and face it away from when you walked in, because it was the first thing we spotted when we walked in, wasn't it, Rob? We went,
It
that's
really
not
was like
great, your
I'm a
first
very visual
experience of
person.
well fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a very visual person, and the first thing I
So
saw, I said, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so like it was so obvious for us. But sometimes when you're in a gym and you work there for someone that owns it, like Derek, all the time, you're there all the time, you're buried in the place, you actually can't see the wood for the trees. So someone fresh eyes coming in and goes, right, this is what we see, Derek, when we walked in here, because we're potential customers. That's what we see on our first sales experience when we walk in your door. So anyway, he moved it. He thanked us and moved the piece of equipment. He said he couldn't believe what you'd done for me. So, but yeah, that's the perfect example. We ended up changing all his resistance, all his flooring. He did get treadmills, but he didn't get the spin bikes that he thought, because I basically said to him, I said, how many of your population base of membership actually use the spinning facility? And he said about 10%. I said, well, let's look at the maximum effect for all your members that are in this club. So I think he has about 12 or 1300 or something like that. I said, what's the maximum effect? They all going to appreciate that you've tidied the place up. So that's your sales model. First of all, your flooring is now looking spectacular. We zoned it color-wise into different segments, so it was easier for a member to flow through. And then we basically changed all his resistance equipment and his cardio. So that had much more impact on all his membership rather than a small proportion that he originally thought he was going to do. So I guess that's the perfect example of me taking a list and Rob taking a list and going, no, I don't think so. Let's look at this in a different way. And he understood it and got it straight away. And where would he spent exactly the same money that he was going to spend, but just in a different way.
And given your experience in the industry, Gordon, how much has equipment changed? Or has the type of equipment and the demand? Obviously, we're seeing emergence of, Hyrox. Prior to this, it was, CrossFit were the big ones.
Yeah.
It was bodybuilding probably before that, just hardcore bodybuilding style gyms. What's it now? Like, is it the Hyrox still the big trend, that style of equipment or functional equipment?
Yeah, so I suppose equipment wise, there's been a complete swing. When I would have started in the industry, and even up till maybe 10 or 12 years ago, your gym would have been 70 to 80% cardio and 20% strength. That's your general format. Your general gym had that in it, and that's it. Your general gym now is at least 50-50. It's actually starting to swing back towards 60-40 strength to cardio. So that's in a mainstream gym. So I suppose that's where the market has gone. There's proven, all sorts of data that shows that strength training is good for everybody, particularly the older population, for example, prevention against osteoporosis and things like that. So there's a whole movement towards strength. And I don't see that as a craze. I see it as an actual trend. You know what I mean? There's a huge difference between crazes and trends, because we've all seen different things floating in and then they float back out the size, in a 2 or 3 years or whatever, and they disappear. The Hyrox model, all those sorts of classes, they're all community based. So I definitively, we travel quite a lot through business. We tend to go to Germany once a year at least. I used to travel quite a lot to different countries just to see what the trends are. So what you'll tend to see is Europe is generally 2 years ahead of what's happening in Ireland. That gap is starting to come out. America's beyond that. they all move towards boutique style gyms, like the small group, like the Hyrox, etc., etc. So that trend started to happen in the States probably 7 or 8 years ago. It's now prevalent. Like if you take our small community in Greystones, there are 3 small group gyms in a 20,000 population in Greystones alone. There's another one that's thinking of opening. So that'll tell you there's only one real mainstream gym, 2 mainstream gyms in the area, and there's more boutique style gyms. So that will tell you where it's going. So it's all about community. It's about proper coaching, and actually, accountability. All those types of things are all really important to people. And I suppose talking about the older population, there are lots of older people coming that have never worked out before, and they need that coaching. They need that instilled in them. They're more about, Rob was talking about start mobility and stretching and things like that. They're all really important parts of it. So I suppose if I'm looking at trends in the industry, that's where we're going, more towards boutique, more in-depth coaching, and then more movement towards the mobility and the rehab side of the market and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably where I see the industry going in its whole.
Rob, would you echo similar, given your extensive background in business alone? You've been a businessman for many years. Is that where you see it going also?
I think so. Yeah, I think the gym, the boutique gym. I think the big box gyms still have their place, but I boutique gyms, they're popping up all over the place. And I suppose one of the main reasons boutique gyms can open is it is a relatively low cost to enter market. Um, if you're a PT and you want to set up your own business and become an entrepreneur, set up your own business and go forward, it's a perfect model, whether you can scale it to 2 and 3 and 5 and 10, it becomes one of the things I always say in business is I have a very good work-life balance. And if you have a boutique style gym, you can have a good life-work balance running a boutique style gym and making a reasonable income to go forward in life. If you choose to go down the road of being a big box gym, there's huge more stresses, huge more capital outlay. There's huge extra costs involved in that. But that's a different route. So for a guy or girl who's become a personal trainer and decides to set up their own business, boutique for me is the only way to go. And if you choose to go down the road of a Hyrox type of setup, or you choose to go down, as Gordon says, a strength and very much a 1-to-5 ratio of personal training, it seems to be a winning model. It just seems to be a winning model. One of the things about the small boutiques that may have where they may need to move into to try and offer something else is that stretching, is the nutrition side of things, is the whole wellness piece that it's a circular thing. It's not just about strength. This zone here is for your exercise. This zone here is for your stretching, and this zone here is for your nutrition. And because what is coming through in the health and fitness industry is it's all about longevity now. It's lifelongness. It's not necessarily just about getting strong. It's how to live a long and healthy life. And exercise is a huge part of that, but so is strength, and so is stretching, and so is diet, and so is peptides. All these new words that are being popped out now, they're all talking about all these new things. But I think there's a trick missed in the industry where it's not all in one place. There is still that separation. Maybe in the States they're doing a little bit more of that, but in Ireland, the whole thing in a holistic wellness centre, it's not really done that much. The closest would be, is Eden One like that, Gordon? Is Eden One a bit like that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Maybe
Eden One is a premium gym in town. It's like 500 quid a month, or up to $2,000 a month, depending on what you want to do. And you get all your massage, you get everything in one place. And the nutrition and all that. So I see there's an opportunity for the small boutique owners to maybe add on another piece to get another revenue piece in. There definitely is. But they may not be able to do the whole thing in one. an industry expert always said to me was, if you are going down the road of taking in, maybe doing food or maybe doing something about your nutrition and things like that, bring an expert in to do that. You know, as PTs, you know, we're all on Instagram, we're all on we're always finding the new trends and you're following this. And if you're giving that advice to one of your clients as a nutritionist saying, oh yeah, I read this and they said that if you do this, like, that's not the job of your PT. Your job of your PT is to do the training piece, get an expert in to do the food piece. And then that grows, that proves that you're getting, you're putting your client's best interest first, as opposed to just giving them sound bites that we hear. Like we all know, a lot of us do know a lot about nutrition, but we're not experts. We're not experts. You're an expert at a PT. Let the nutritionist talk about the nutrition. Let the stretchologist do the stretching piece and learn from them. But, you know, that's a bit of a differentiator, I think, that a lot of boutique gyms can do to grow and offer something different.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the great things about here at SAOR is we work obviously predominantly in the Australian market and Ireland. And it's funny because, like you said there, Gordon, I reckon Ireland is about 5 to 10 years behind Australia. Like they saw the emergence of contrast therapy, saunas, cold exposure, the longevity, you know, your red light therapy, all these supplementary protocols, let's call them. You know, I think you can never really supplement working out, getting your sweat up, right? And especially if you can do that in a community, even better again. You know, you can never supplement that for a line under a red light for 20 minutes, but they are supplementary, you know, protocols that can be utilized in boutique gyms. And actually in Lithuania, where I'm based currently now, we're seeing the big gym here is Gym Plus, Gym Plus. And they now, in the majority of their, and they're large gyms, like I think the one here in my city is the biggest gym in all of the Baltics, actually. It's about 4,000 square foot or 5,000 square foot. And they now are actively putting in recovery zones into each one of their gyms. Right, they're putting in the cryo chambers, the red light, the saunas, you know, all these supplementary protocols, and that seems to be the way the model is going. And I think, yeah, like you said there, Rob, to have it as not a standalone business, because we did see that in Ireland. We saw a lot of these recovery suites opening up, but quickly closing there afterwards, because it's a very difficult model. It's a very high cost model as well when you factor in electricity and staff costs, of course, in Ireland at the minute, and water and all these things. It's to create that space, you know, like the third space is one of probably the most well-known ones in London, right? I think they might be in New York as well. And that model, is that the way you see the future going as well, Gordon, where it's more of an all-in-one space? And do we see, and I have to bring this in, do we see AI coming in and aiding that space also?
Yeah, I definitely see the holistic approach. There's no doubt about that, and adding services in to the current gym profile. You know what I mean? So you take a small group example, adding on services essentially. So you've just mentioned overheads there. It's such a key part of the whole thing. If you already have most of those overheads in place, you know, like the rent, etc., the only cost really involved is just putting in the actual item that costs the money. It's just an equipment-based cost, which we've just spoke about. You can lease or whatever. So if you're setting it up as a standalone, you have everything else that goes with it. Do you know what I mean? So it makes total sense. And what you're doing is you're giving your member, one, a more holistic approach in that you're looking at everything. And secondly, I think you're just offering more services for them, basically. So it's an improved membership. Now, that could be income based. So you have tiers to your membership, for example, where your small group PT is X, and then you add in, you know, nutrition advice as Y, and then you add in your rehab side of things and your recovery as Z or whatever it be. So great way of tiering your membership, you know what I mean, and looking at additional spend within your facility, basically, for those sorts of services. So yeah, definitely. So not sure about AI. I'm a bit apprehensive. I mean, it's an inevitable.
I'll come in on the AI. I'll come in on the AI.
Well, he's the IT man here.
Go for it, Rob.
Yeah, it has to play a part going forward. It has to play a part going forward, and it's only going to get more intuitive. It's only going to help more the longer it's around. It's not going to replace. It ain't going to replace. Okay, it's not going to replace people in a gym. It's not going to replace trainers, but it is going to give them a lot more information. The amount of information we have already with Fitbits and like the wearables that are tracking all your metrics, you know, AI will sit into that and feedback information, more information all the time. It's not going to replace people, I don't think. You know, there are some operators there that have some quite cool machinery now with bits of AI built into it, where, you know, it's mirroring what you're doing on a screen, and it's telling you to, instead of having your hands here, have them here, and it's telling you to do it like this. And your trainer's not near you. It's teaching you all that stuff. It's not, for me, that's, it's good, but that's not where it's going. Eventually, maybe it's going to be a little bit more like that, where you just sit into a machine and it does the exercise and moves everything in the right position to activate your muscles. At the moment, I think it's there more for information and to help going forward. And it is only like anyone who says AI ain't going to impact in their industry, you know, won't be in business too long. If they truly believe that. I have a cousin who's in the website business, and he's old school. This was a little anecdote. He's old school. And about 2 years ago, he used to do my websites for me and build my websites. I said, "Are you using AI a lot?" No, I don't use that. So I have a copywriter here to do this, and I have a copywriter who says, the poor lad's struggling big time because he hasn't adapted. You know, so we have to adapt to AI. We can't say it's not there and it's not going to change our business, because it's going to change every business. Just you know, it's going to change every business. That's what I think about AI.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think it's there to supplement what you're already doing. I don't think we can ever replace the human touch. Or at least I hope we can't. I genuinely hope we can't, at least anyways. Yeah. But from from our members' perspective, what we are seeing is it's reducing admin load, and ourselves
100%.
included here at SAOR as well. Yeah. It's reducing admin load, which makes us, or allows us, to get better at what we do, which is work one-on-one with people. And I think that's the real power to it, because most business owners are caught up doing too much admin, set behind a computer, and ultimately that's probably not why we get into this industry as well, right? We love working with people, and we love actually working out and showing people and helping people feel how good exercise is. And that's where I see the real win coming into play. Yeah, where that comes into equipment or not to give us more feedback on force or pressure or movement, I think some of those elements could be beneficial, maybe more in an online coaching capacity. But it is there, and it's here. Actually, it's here, and I think adapting is the best way forward. Gordon, one piece of advice for someone setting up their gym this year, or looking to do a secondary fit out or refresh their gym.
Making it personal. Come and talk to us early. So if you want us involved, and that helps. Ask lots of opinions of lots of different people from different perspectives. Talk to your members. You know, they're an important part. I know sometimes you are reluctant sometimes to go to members because you get lots of different opinions. But I think, you know, the more people you ask with the more diverse sorts of opinions, the better you're going to have a chance, because you have to make your own decision at the end of the day. But the more information that you have, the better. So I think that's probably the most important thing. Don't be afraid to ask advice from lots and lots of different people, and not necessarily industry people. Like someone who's, you know, a potential member that's that bit older or whatever it be, they're an important person. How do they feel when they walk into a gym, for example? Do you know what I mean? Make it more comfortable for them. So they know nothing about the industry, but you need to hear from that person. So there's just an example of someone outside of the industry, for example. So, so that's kind of my general advice. Ask for advice, basically.
And Rob, from yourself, one piece of advice to business owners going forward, looking ahead to the future?
Be open to different ideas. Don't be pigeonholed into thinking, if I'm opening a Hyrox gym, I have to get a center sled, because that's the ones that are done for Hyrox that are 2.5 times the price of another one. and there's another one there perfectly. Don't be pigeonholed into picking items that you think are the industry best. That's I do that in my own business every day. You know, there's different brands and there's different opinions. I sell a lot of clothing, and there's different brands and clothing and things like that. You know, most of them do the same thing, and your clients want value for money. They want quality. They want quick lead times. You don't necessarily have to have the badge to say you've got the best equipment. They don't care. They don't care. You tick the other boxes and they don't care. If the thing works correctly, and if it looks good, don't be pigeonholed into thinking the brands are the dogs. That's the way I think about it. And I live my life like that. For everything I buy myself, I'm into cycling. If I had endless pockets of money, I'd be going out buying myself a Colnago bike. I don't, so I get myself a good giant bike and I build it up as best I can to make it as efficient as possible. If you've got deep pockets, spend what you like. But most guys who are setting up in business and they're starting off, they don't have deep pockets. They have they have to get value for money, and they have to get good quality. And there are options out there other than, let's call it, the big names. And that's where we come in. Like I think that's our USP. We don't get all caught up in the sizzle of, like, Gordon. I mean, myself and Gordon have debated on this a lot of the times, and Gordon would say, I had Life Fitness and that was the best brand. People used to just come to us because we had Life Fitness. There was a massive amount of inbound business because people just thought they just needed Life Fitness. And I think Gordon has changed his mind a little bit on that over time now with the way we've gone. It's not all just about the brand. It does get you the leads, definitely does get you the leads and get you in the door a bit quicker. But we've seen the equipment at firsthand. I've been at when I've gone to FIBO to see the equipment. Last year I was like a kid in a candy shop running around the place going, oh, look at this, this is lovely, look at this, oh, look at this is great. But all the companies are offering comparable products. Some are offering them at much better pricing than others, and then some are offering them with quicker lead times. And when we've aligned ourselves with what we've done is to get the best bang for your buck, quick lead times. So we wouldn't sell a sizzle of just having this brand. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Great message from both of you guys. I think that hopefully a lot of business owners or potential business owners are listening to this. And of course, if they do want to reach out to you guys, your links will be below. I actively encourage you guys to reach out to Gordon and Rob. Incredible at what they do, hence why we still continue to choose to partner with them. Guys, thank you for joining me here today.